What started as a simple quest for food has turned into a disaster for a pair of Ceratosauruses. They've entered the territory of a huge Allosaurus who ambushed the female. Now she lies in a pool of blood, and her mate is in a fight to the death with a lumbering Allosaurus twice his size.
Allosaurus is so big, all he cares about is getting his teeth on you. Once he's got you, you're done. Game over. The claw drives home directly into the Allosaurus. The Allosaurus roars in terror as it stands upright, blood gushing from the wound. Now the fight has changed. It's personal. The Ceratosaurus now has the perfect opportunity to outflank Allosaurus. Ceratosaurus moves quickly around and leaps into the air, landing on the side of the Allosaurus. The Allosaurus is looking to kill this animal, not chase him away, but to kill him. Allosaurus, using his mass, is able to shift and shudder and ultimately throw the Ceratosaurus to the ground. The Allosaurus lunges forward, but then changes position halfway to his target. The Ceratosaurus fails to react quickly enough. The enormous jaws of the Allosaurus clamp down on the shoulder of the Ceratosaurus. The Ceratosaur roars in pain and is able to use its elongated upper teeth to slash the jaw of the Allosaur. But the Allosaur will not release its prey.
Fueled by bloodlust, the Allosaurus unleashes his rage on the wounded rival.
Grabbing the Ceratosaurus in his jaws, the Allosaurus picks his body up and shakes it like a rag doll. The Ceratosaurus slumps to the ground, and the Allosaurus towers over its prey. Allosaurus uses the enormous claws on its feet to disembowel its helpless prey. Allosaurus has won the battle and has reclaimed this forest as its own.
During a drought in the late Jurassic, a receding lake has become a battlefield. 3 Allosaurus have killed a Ceratosaurus. A Stegosaurus, wielding his lethal tail spikes, has killed one of the unsuspecting Allosaurus. The fight shifts as the surviving Allosaurs focus their attention on a Camarosaurus stuck in the mud. Using their 2 key weapons, sharp teeth and vicious claws, they inflict serious wounds. If they can make the kill, the predators can feast for days. The Camarosaurus, despite being at a clear disadvantage, wages a strong self-defense. The Allosaurus stalk their prey, looking for a weak spot.
If one of the Allosauruses can get to the soft skin of the neck, they might be able to sever a major artery or cut off the air to the lungs. That will absolutely end this battle and bring down their behemoth prey.
The Allosaurus circle their prey. They use an anatomical adaptation to their advantage, splayed toes.
The Allosauruses don't get stuck in the mud like the Camarosaurus for 2 reasons. Number 1, they don't weigh as much, but number 2, they have a remarkable adaptation. It's the design of their foot. Like modern birds, their toes are splayed out in 3 different directions. This configuration gives them incredible traction when they're running at high speeds, but it also gives them stability. And the weight of the body is distributed between these 3 toes and not straight down, as in the foot of Camarosaurus. They work like snowshoes, keeping the body from breaking through the upper hard crust while allowing them unimpeded movement across the lake bed.
One of the Allosaurus attacks. The Camarosaurus is quick to respond.
Like a freight train, the impact crushes the ribs and splinters the arms of Allosaurus and drives its own humerus deep into its chest.
The momentum of the tail allows the Camarosaurus's front legs to become free. Using the power in its rear legs, it raises its body. The other Allosaurus darts in.
The Allosaurus can't stop. Its momentum literally drives it directly under the foot of the massive sauropod.
With its massive weight, the Camarosaurus crushes its last remaining rival. But its victory would be short-lived. With all of its energy spent and once again firmly stuck in the mud, the Camarosaurus is condemned to a slow, agonizing death.
The Allosaurus was so focused on the fact that Camarosaurus was stuck, it wasn't in top predator mode. That meant it got in too close. Never in its wildest imagination would it have thought that Camarosaurus would shift its center of gravity, free those giant front feet, and crush that Allosaurus like it was a bug.
Camarosaurus may have triumphed over Allosaurus in this fight, but in the ultimate battle for survival, they and all the other dinosaurs at the lake would lose. 70 million years ago, in what is now Canada, two Albertosaurus charged a herd of Pachyrhinosaurus, causing a stampede towards a flooding river. The Albertosaurus had a fast metabolism like the birds of today. This forced it to feed frequently to replenish its energy.
Because of their lower center of gravity, dinosaurs like Pachyrhinosaurus would have been able to recover quickly from a fall. They have very powerful front and rear legs, and this makes getting back up if you fall a lot easier. As quickly as it knocked them down, it's back up on its feet again.
The Pachyrhinosaurus had legs as thick as a grown man's waist. They were also relatively dense, like the legs of an elephant, not as hollow as those of the Albertosaurus.
The thin legs of Albertosaurus are its weak spot because it wouldn't take much force to crack or even break the leg bones. But because they're relatively thin, they're a smaller target. The Pachyrhinosaurus misses the bone and only rips the skin, and this enrages the Albertosaurus, who then goes for broke.
The Cretaceous period was not as hot as the Jurassic. The temperatures were still hotter than today, but the relatively cooler climate allowed the dinosaurs to be more active. This was an advantage for the meat eaters, who expended more energy in a fight than the plant eaters. The Albertosaurus also had a cavernous stomach. It could have eaten a cow in a single meal. Its endless appetite drove it to savage butchery.
The Albertosaurus paces back and forth, pushing the herd into a tighter formation. From experience, it knows that if they're packed in too tight, then they'll lose their ability to move independently, and that's when he'll strike.
The brain of the Pachyrhinosaurus can only think of one thing at a time. They react, they do not plan. If they're focused on an attacker, they're not attuned to their environment.
One by one, the Pachyrhinosaurus are being pushed into the river as the herd moves back. Normally, these dinosaurs would be able to swim without any trouble, but now they're in panic mode, and it's every dinosaur for himself. In their struggle to get away from the Albertosaurus, they begin to drown each other.
The Pachyrhinosaurus would swim like a dog, holding its head above water and paddling with its feet. This was impossible when they were too tightly packed together. The Albertosaurus was not a good swimmer. Its small arms were useless in the water, leaving it to rely on its two powerful legs.
Even though the Albertosaurus is capable of swimming, there is no way it's going to get into a flooded river. But the side of the herd floating downstream is too much for him to ignore, so he heads off to follow the river and look for an opportunity to snatch one from the water.
A Nanotyrannus knows he's no match for a fully grown T-Rex. He makes sure the adults are gone before he moves in for the kill. Senses on high alert. The two juvenile tyrannosaurs instinctively know that a predator approaches. They're too young to have ever seen a Nanotyrannus, But it doesn't matter. They're hardwired to recognize a threat and face it head on.
The Nanotyrannus doesn't just haphazardly attack. These young tyrannosaurs have a special defensive mechanism, a mouth full of bacteria. The Nanotyrannus knows that a nit from a young tyrannosaur could potentially end its life. These are the first animals to use biological weapons.
One bite full of that bacteria, and Nanotyrannus is dead from a massive infection, if the fight doesn't kill him first. He moves in cautiously, using his height advantage to assert his dominance. He leans in, flashing those serrated teeth. Their hissing is a warning. We're not backing down. The fight's on. The Nanotyrannus hangs back, making mock lunges. It's a luring technique.
If he can get them out of the nesting area, they have no hope. But the juveniles instinctively stay in the security of the nesting area. They stand shoulder to shoulder, facing their attacker.
Nanotyrannus circles his rivals, looking for an opportunity.
The little Tyrannosaurus leaps forward and snaps his jaws and loses his footing. The Nano grabs the young Tyrannosaurus Rex behind the neck, picks him up, and throws him like a rag doll across the forest floor. Now he's only got one juvenile left.
The lone juvenile doesn't stand a chance.
The young T-Rex seems panicked. It wants to turn and run, but instincts tell it to stand its ground. It roars as loud as it can. This is basically a cry for help. It hopes that mom and dad are near enough to hear this. The Nanotyrannus knows that the young T-Rex has just sounded an alarm. He's got to end this battle, and he's got to get out of there quick. He leans in and decides to go for a full frontal attack.
Nanotyrannus leans in again, waiting to make his lethal lunge. He's using his experience as a veteran fighter to his best advantage. The T-Rex, a rookie warrior, tries to match his every move.
As he moves in for the kill, Nanotyrannus feels a horrible pain in his left leg. He looks down, and there is the second juvenile T-Rex. He's recovered from his sling across the forest floor, and he's attacking. He's bitten the Nanotyrannus on the leg, and if that wound becomes infected, it could end his life.
This time, Nanotyrannus will make sure that the T-Rex dies. Flexing all the power of his jaws, he clamps down with nearly half a ton of pressure and crushes its spinal cord.
He throws it to the ground, and using his foot claw, he stomps the baby. Now it knows that juvenile Tyrannosaurus Rex is dead.
But there's no time to eat. One T-Rex down, Nanotyrannus moves in for the final kill.
As he leans down to take a bite, he feels the ground begin to vibrate. This telltale sign says there's something big and it's nearby.
That something big is the adult female T-Rex returning from her hunt. When she sees what's happened in her absence, all hell will break loose.